Hi. Welcome to Ready to Chat. Hope you're all doing well today, getting ready for the weekend. I am Ann Johnson, and we're going to be talking about losing the former versions of ourselves, what we've lost. And I don't mean passed away, I mean what we've lost of ourselves. But before we get going, and it's a kind of a deeper conversation than last week's, um, help a sister out. I'm trying to lose weight. What are some low-cal snacks that you eat? Would love to hear in the chat, just so I have something. I'm running out of stuff. I do have for lunch, it's not a snack so much, but I mixed 12 ounces of canned chicken with low-fat plain yogurt and a tablespoon. It calls for two, but I just put one in because two is too much. 2 tablespoons of the dry ranch dressing, and it's tasty. You don't even know it's not mayonnaise, and it's low cal and packed with. Throw an egg in too, and a boiled egg in, and it's packed with protein. So that's my thing. If anyone else has one, please feel free to put it in the chat. I'd love to hear what you guys snack on or eat. Getting to grief or grieving ourselves for what we lost. I mentioned that grieving isn't about losing somebody so much. Laud. Marie says laud. I don't know what that means. Okay, message retracted. Hello, Mary says hello from West Virginia. Hello to you, Mary. Mary Zubach is my mother, for those of you who haven't been here before. So she's popped in to check up on me. When we picture grief, we picture funerals and divorce and all those types of things. But there's a quieter grief that we don't talk about. Oh, Marie says, oops, meant laughing cow and radishes. Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good snack. Yeah, I'd go for that. You know, you don't see radishes very, at least I don't. I don't see radishes very often in the grocery store. I'm in the South, so maybe they're not as big down here, Marie. But yeah, I don't see them too often. Laughing cow, got that. Um, you remember the woman in the photograph who was 20 years old? The woman who stayed up till 2 a.m. in the morning and got up the next morning and went to work? The one who had a house full of kids? Or had a job that she loved and was making it her career and focusing her whole life on it. We're going to talk about that woman tonight. One of a few former, I mean, we grieve some of these people. And I can tell you the role or the person that I grieve, that I miss, is being a granddaughter. So you might grieve the woman in the photograph, you might grieve having children, but I really grieve the role of granddaughter. I was really close with my grandparents. I was the first grandchild, so I had a special relationship with them. And I had them up until I was in my mid-20s, so before they passed. And interesting, they passed at two different times, 4 years apart, 5 years apart. But I was with my grandfather when he died the same day, and I was with my grandmother the same day that she died. So it was bittersweet that I was with them. But one thing that I mourned. Well, I didn't mourn. I didn't realize that's what was going on. But what I lost was my childhood. I was no longer the grandbaby. So I mourned without realizing it the passing of childhood into adulthood. And that really, really did a lot for me. I was grown up now. I realized that I was grown up and had to go on. I mean, I still had my mother, but grandparents are protect you from adulthood, I think. Nobody sends a casserole when this part of you dies. Have you noticed that? Nobody sends you a card that you've just lost a piece of yourself or part of yourself or a former version of yourself. You're no longer the single carefree woman who you were in your 20s and 30s. You're not adventurous and fearless anymore. Now you're more cautious and you mourn her. There's actually a term for this, and it's called disenfranchised grief. It's loss the world doesn't recognize, so we don't allow ourselves time to mourn. When you don't mourn, it just goes underground. And it tends to hit hardest about our age, in our 50s, late 40s, 50s, or 60s. This is when it hits the hardest because it stacks up. Our bodies have shifted. Our careers are winding down. If you had children, maybe they've left and gone on to college or just living their life in their own world. And it's a lot at once. So it's a lot to grieve. Who are you grieving? What person are you grieving? If you could put it in the chat. I told you mine, being a granddaughter. I'm going to walk you through some selves that I think we've all dealt with or been at some point in our lives, and that we miss. And one is younger body. You miss your younger body. And I don't mean woohoo, cutesy little thing. I mean being able to kneel down without creaking. I mean going to the gym without recovering for 3 days. I went to the gym this morning, lifted weights, got on the elliptical, and got home, thought it was great. By 4 in the afternoon, I needed ibuprofen. That 30-year-old never would have needed ibuprofen. Marie says she misses being a wife. That's a big one. We're going to talk about that too, Marie. You might miss being the mother of young children. You might miss it was exhausting, and you might not miss the exhausting part of it, but you might miss the fun part of it. Mary Zubak says, me too, Marie. You might not want to go back to having that 4-year-old or that 3-year-old, but maybe one day when it's a good day, just checking in with them and seeing what you do miss. I mean, I don't want to go back to the 3 or 4-year-old, but I miss it. I miss that time period. There was always something going on, and it was fun. For some of us, it's career. For those who never had families or never had children, they have a wonderful career, and maybe they've been forced out, or maybe they're retiring, and they're like, "What do I do now? Now that I'm out of my career, or now that I'm retired?" That's a loss. Oh, Mary says, I miss moving without creaking. Amen to that one. I think we all creak a little bit at our age. The future self, you might miss her. And what I mean by that is when you were 25 years old, what was your future going to be? What did you think you were going to be in the future, 15, 20 years down the road? Did you end up doing that? I don't know of too many people that have. I mean, I was going to be single and run a newspaper. Well, I ended up married eventually. Eventually, I got married older. And as we're running for newspaper, they're all going out of business. I'd be unemployed by now. So that kind of worked out well for me. But I had totally different dreams of what I ended up doing. I was going to be oh, Marie says she misses getting up from a chair without groaning. Or how about when you're on the beach and you're in one of those deep chairs and you have to get up? Or can you get up? That's always a joy. You kind of have to roll over like a turtle and push yourself up. Yeah, I kind of miss just popping up. So the moaning part, I'm with you on that one. So you couldn't be missing out on your future self that you had dreamed of being, and you grieve that. Especially if it's something that you really wanted when you were 25 and you never had the opportunity to have. There's a lot of grief there if that's the case. There's a specific shift that comes as a daughter when your parents die and you're suddenly nobody's child anymore. There's grief there. It's not just grief from the loss, but it's grief from how your being has shifted. When you're nobody's child anymore, that's your last defense against mortality, your parents. So that's a toughie. Are there any nobody's childs anymore watching? And then divorce or widowhood. That version of you who was half of we is gone. Is gone. And there's the grief of the loss. And there's the grief of now I'm not a we anymore. I'm an I. And I have to go it alone. And those are two griefs that you have to deal with. And that's very difficult. That's very difficult. Because now, Marie, yes, that is hard. Also, there is no one to tell you if you are wrong or support you. That's true, Marie. There's also no one to tell you if you are right when you're making a decision. There's no one to help you make the decision. So that makes it even tougher. You're kind of, when you've been single your entire life, it's automatic. You always I. And that's how you go through life. You're not sharing. I mean, I was single until I was almost 40 years old. But when you are married, you totally immerse yourself into each other. And it becomes difficult to make decisions and to without each other, because you're going to be, whatever you do affects the other, and whatever they do affects you. So you tend to work together. When that disappears, it's heart-wrenching. Mary says that's what Marie and I are talking about. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of starting over, isn't it? It's starting over. It's like the first time you moved out of your parents' house. So you're missing being a wife. I was going to ask which version are you missing, but you've already answered that. You miss being a wife. I miss being I miss a couple other things too, but I do miss being a granddaughter. Nobody's child anymore. That's another hard one. There's a trap that a new chapter. Yes. Mary says there's a new chapter. It is a new chapter, but you have to write it by yourself, but you're capable of it. One thing that some of us do, and sometimes this is after a death as well, is you start saying, but I'm so blessed I have all these other things. Maybe I don't have my youth anymore and I didn't do these things, but I'm blessed because I have these other things. And what happens is you don't let yourself feel the loss. Your gratitude is real, but all it's doing is making you skip the grief. And yeah, it's important to realize your blessings, but don't skip the grief and go right to them. Let yourself grieve. Let yourself grieve. Because all these things are losses. I went through and when you have grief, it can leak out in many ways. It can leak out in a lot of ways. You can be irritable, um, numb. Some people go numb when they grieve. They may not even realize they're grieving, especially if it's for something that they were, a version of themselves. But they feel numb, they feel irritability sometimes, scrolling at old photographs. That was something I did. When my grandson went to college, I remember sitting down and scrolling through my phone at photographs of him when he was a little boy and when he was a baby, little boy, teenager, all these old photos. And I didn't recognize what I was doing was grieving for the past boy. I wish I had, because it probably would have made it easier, because then I would say, okay, I'm sad that he's gone, but I've got this wonderful young man now in my life. Pretty good. So if you let yourself grieve, you will find your blessings automatically, because you will have put that grief to bed and not have buried it underneath everything. You can miss who you were and still love who you are. You have a big enough heart for both. So remember that. I miss the carefree single woman I was in my 20s and 30s. But I love the married woman I am, who's Nana. So I can have both, and you can have both. You can miss and grieve and still move on and love who you are now, and who you and that's vital. How does grief leak out on you? What do you do when you're grieving? Put it in the chat. How do you deal with it? Do you scroll old photos at midnight? Are you irritable? Do you cry? What do you do when you grieve? I think I get irritable. I think that's more my thing. Irritability. Ah! Mary Zubach says I paint the walls. I remember when you did that. You painted the entire downstairs. After my stepfather died, my mom painted everything. So, and furniture. How about the chalk paint? Everything got painted. I'm surprised the cat remained orange. But I think I get irritable when I look at old pictures of things, if it's appropriate to have pictures. I keep myself busy when I'm grieving. It's the old, I don't want to think about it. Marie says all of the above, but mainly I think of all the good times and keep talking about them. Yeah. When you talk about them, kind of keeps them alive, doesn't it? They're not gone. And it's not like you're dwelling. It's just like, as long as it comes out of your mouth, it's still there. You know, letting your former self go isn't erasing her. You can let your former self go. Think of it as rings on a tree. I feel like Barbara Walters here. What kind of tree would you be? But seriously, rings in a tree. It's like layers of yourself. When you, as you live, you bring in a different ring every year because you're different every year. And by the time you get into your 50s, you've accumulated all these rings. So you're this big, powerful tree now, which is pretty good. And sometimes this new person that we chose to be, we left someone else and chose to be this new person. I'm not talking about reinvention. I don't believe in reinventing yourself in your midlife. I think it's more of a transition. But it clears when you lose somebody else and you change, you're clearing the way to change. You're clearing the way so that Mary says, reinvent yourself sometimes more than once. All right. The self you choose clears the room. And oftentimes, and you may have found this to be true, Mary, that the new person isn't performing anymore the same routine they performed before. Maybe for the first time, they're doing exactly what they want, exactly when they want it. Think about that a moment. You're not performing the old role. You're performing a new role, or you're not even performing at all, actually, because you've become you at this point. So that's even better. Who found unexpected freedom after a loss? Did any of you find some kind of freedom that despite the loss, be it loss of youth? Marie says, look forward to my future and take care of myself and not overthink. Oh, that's a good one. I think we all tend to overthink, especially when it comes to what to do next, because we get kind of full of fear sometimes about the future. And if we do something that could make a mistake, when most things are fixable, you don't need to worry about it. But we do tend to get ourselves all worked up thinking of the worst possible scenario. You know, does anyone else like that? They think of the worst possible thing that can happen. And that locks you into this inactivity as a result. And you don't move. You just don't move because you're so locked with fear and you're so locked with unable to make a decision because you've overthought it. So not overthinking is vital to living, I think. Unless, of course, you're building a bridge. Then you want them to overthink. I want my surgeon to overthink too. So that's the only time, though. I found some unexpected freedom after a loss. And it was really funny because when my grandson went to college, well, I was no longer helping him. And I mean on school projects. We did some wonderful school projects that I don't know, I enjoyed them more than he did. And soccer, I coached a soccer team. Have you ever coached 5-year-olds? Seriously, have you ever coached 5-year-olds in soccer? You find yourself saying things like, okay, the goal was wonderful. That was a wonderful goal, but let's try our goal next time. I miss those days. But I couldn't believe how much freedom I had afterwards. I had so much freedom. I didn't spend hours after work doing homework, or all my weekends doing projects or going to little plays, children's plays, or concerts, or taking them here, or taking them there. I didn't realize how exhausting that was and how free it was not to do it anymore. So even with loss can come freedom. I want to shift the question now, not to who am I, who aren't I anymore, who am I no longer, the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old, the woman dreaming of this. I want to change it a little bit to who am I becoming? Who am I becoming now? Because that's a different doorway. You can leave who you were before and become somebody stronger and more beautiful than ever. Who are you becoming? I think I'm becoming stronger. I think I'm becoming much stronger. I always thought of myself as a strong woman, but I feel like I'm more me. And I left me alone for a while to help in raising Aiden, my grandson. So I feel like I'm me again, and that I can go forward and do the fun things I've been wanting to do. So I'm getting back to me. Let's put it that way. I'm not being the old me who was not married, but this is the new married me who has time to do fun things and has time to spend time with her husband. This is a stronger, better me. So that's what I'm becoming, slowly but surely. You know, for some people who are upset about the life they left and they moved on from, it helps, especially if that person did something that you're not happy with in your past, or you didn't achieve something that you wanted to in your past. Write that person a letter. Write that person a letter and say, it's okay because this turned out this way. You're okay. And you made a mistake and you're fine now. It's over with. I didn't achieve what I wanted to when I was in my 20s, but I've achieved this. Write yourself a letter. Marie says that in becoming who she is, she wants to learn to take chances and not worry about pleasing others, gaining confidence. That's an important one. People pleasing at our age is just going to wear you out. It's just going to wear you out. People pleasing is one thing a lot of women leave behind when they're in their 50s and 60s. And you can too, Marie. You can too. I always say there's a word. It's a very simple word, 2 letters. When somebody asks you to do something or somebody wants you to say something, and that word is no. Use it. So, Marie, next time, instead of people pleasing, say, no, can't do it. Sorry. You don't even have to give an excuse. Just no. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. My aunt is like that. She never says no to her children. and then she's always running around doing what she doesn't want to do herself. So, no. Confidence comes with that. The more you say no, the more confident you'll get in that, in saying it. Marie says, great advice. Thank you, Marie. We celebrate weddings and retirement parties. And Mary says she doesn't want anyone in her life that makes her unhappy. Isn't that a good one to become? I mean, life's too short. And I have a video, I'll link it in the description, and it's about midlife friends that just don't work for you anymore. And there are people who, I hate the word toxic, but who don't align with you any longer. And they may have been friends with you for years, but they're no longer aligned with who you've become or what you want to do now. And that can make you very unhappy, very unhappy. So sometimes you have to say goodbye to some people. And I don't mean sit them down and say, this is goodbye. I mean, just back off from people who make you unhappy, because it's not worth it. It's not, when you're lying on your deathbed, you're not going to say, gee, I wish I would have spent more time with this woman who drove me crazy and made me sad. You're not going to say that. You're going to say, I'm really glad I spent time with my good friends who made you happy. We celebrate weddings and retirements, but we should celebrate our inner accomplishments as well. When we grieve and get over something that's happened in our past, a loss, that's an accomplishment. And it should be acknowledged. It shouldn't be ignored. And if you are grieving and haven't gotten over it yet, talk about it to somebody. Grab a friend. Tell them, I really miss being 30, because when I was 30, I was single and I didn't have a care in the world. I miss that person. That's grief. If you miss someone that you're still bringing it up when you're in your 50s, that's grief. And it needs to be acknowledged and it needs to be named. The same thing with, I'm sad that they forced me out of my job. I miss my job. That's okay to say it. It's okay to say it to a friend. Write it down. Put it on a piece of paper so it's out there. Put it out there. It's okay. And that's a way of acknowledging the grief so you can move forward. How would you acknowledge your grief? Mary says, good advice. When you do acknowledge your grief, you're acknowledging and grieving a version of yourself, not your whole self. It's just a version. If you feel the grief, it's not a sign that something's wrong or that you're wrong. It's a receipt of your life. Because if you don't grieve anything, you probably haven't lived a good life. You haven't lived a life at all. If you can look back and say everything was perfect, I don't miss anybody, nothing's wrong, that's just not how life is. There's usually something that we're grieving. That's not being honest with yourself, because a true life led has some grief in it. We've all lost people. We've all lost versions of ourselves. Acknowledge it and let yourself grieve, and then go on. You have a void in your life somewhere when you grieve. And especially with a death, going back to widows. And it never goes away. I mean, I remember a surgeon one time telling me, nature hates a void. Well, nature might hate the void, but your heart sometimes doesn't hate the void. It leaves it there. But the thing with the void is it may not go away, but it becomes easier. It becomes easier to live with it. And I think that's important to realize. Oh, get over it. No, you're never going to get over it. I'm sorry. But you can learn to live with it and go on with your life. That goes back to grieving, acknowledging it, and living your life. This has been a good conversation. I appreciate both of you joining in. Is there anything else that we haven't covered? We've covered a lot tonight. Have a good weekend, and I will see you next week. Don't forget, I have a video coming out Sunday at 6:00, and love for you to watch it. So take care, and thanks for the chat.